appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you guys have a
Important.
very busy campaign trail, and a great event tonight here in
This is
Spencer.
part of it.
Absolutely. So I'll make it quick because I know you got a busy
Take your
schedule.
time.
So one question here for you. What are your 3 top priorities if elected president? How are you going to affect those?
Well, there's actually 4. One is to make sure we rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, which you helped put together. And so and within the first 100 days, have all those over 180 nations come to the United States to up the ante, because they have the commitment they all made with us out of it, we can't leave it, is that they would continue to increase the commitments they had to deal with global warming. The second piece of that is to make sure that we get past quickly my climate plan that is going to fundamentally change the way in which we can set down sort of guardrails that over the next 10 years no one else is going to be able to change, where we can reduce global warming in a significant way by 30 or more % by dealing with a whole range of issues you don't have time to do on this. But anyway, that's number 1. Number 2, I think it's critically important that I would move with the Congress quickly to pass Obamacare as adopted by Biden, which is to add a public option, a Medicare-like option to Obamacare, also restricting drug price increases, as well as dealing with significant infusion of money for research into cancer and Alzheimer's. And the country's ready to do that. People tell me that's not the case, but if you recall, at the end of the last administration, I was able to get an $8.9 billion bill passed 2 weeks before he got sworn in, and everybody said it wouldn't be done. This is something there's a bipartisan consensus on. And we don't have to wait 5 years, we don't have to raise taxes on middle-class people. We can do it, and we can get it done quickly and cover everybody. The third thing for me is that I would fundamentally change Trump's tax policy. It's not about just, quote, a wealth tax. It's about making sure that we fundamentally alter the tax structure. For example, there are $1,650,000,000 worth of loopholes written into the law, meaning taxes not being collected. 400 to 600 billion of that has no justification for it at all. And the country and even the Republicans are ready to move on changing that and investing that in the economy, investing that in what I talked about tonight about rural America and how to grow, because the Republicans and Democrats can both agree on that. And thirdly, I would immediately move to legitimize dreamers, those children, the DACA folks. And I would move to a comprehensive plan to provide a path to citizenship for the 11 to 12 million people who are undocumented, most of whom did not illegally cross the border. They came with visas and didn't go home. And so they are the immediate priorities. But it's hard to, and the other thing I'd be sending to the Congress quickly, and I think we can get done, is education. Fundamentally increasing, there's these, I know you know this, most people don't though, Title I schools in disadvantaged neighborhoods, or communities where the basic income is below what the larger, or what the more wealthy communities are. We now spend $15 billion a year on those communities. I would make sure that went to $45 billion, which we can afford to do in the light of all the need. That would put every single solitary child, 3, 4, and 5 years old, into preschool, but school, not daycare. And the studies at your universities here in Iowa and across the nation show that increases exponentially the prospects of a kid being able to do well no matter what background they come from. And it keeps them out of trouble as well. And it will increase teachers' salaries along the way. So there are the issues: education, a tax code that is reasonable and fair, making sure we deal with climate change by setting down the standards that are needed immediately, and also dealing with immigration.
Well, I'd love to dig into each one of those individually,
Sure,
because it's all, but we just don't have time for that. We're about 2 months out from caucus now. Currently, Pete Buttigieg is sitting atop in the most recent polls, and I know they kind of fluctuate.
No.
But with 2 months out, what is it going to take for the Joe Biden campaign to be in that top position come election time?
Well, I tell you what, 3 things. Number 1, the voters of Iowa, as you know better than I do, don't make up their minds until the last 30 days. That same poll shows close to 70% haven't made up their mind.
Sure.
Number Number two, the single most important thing in terms of those same polls, the Iowa poll, the Des Moines Register poll, shows that the single most important ingredient they're looking at in a candidate who can beat Donald Trump, who can do that. Number three, I've learned a long time ago that, as my dad would say, half a win is showing up. That's why we waited to now to do the bus tour. That's why we're traveling 660 miles over the next, I guess, a total of 8, 9, 10 days, to go in and say, look, I take it seriously. I want to know what's on your mind. I want to know what you're thinking about. And what do you want to know from me? Just going in and touching people. You're earning their vote. And you know as well as I do that Iowans don't make up their mind. I mean, a guy who's a great friend of mine, John Kerry, remember he was leading like I was, all of a sudden dropped to the bottom, came back in the last 35 days and won. I mean, so everybody who's the good news is, because I've been leading from the beginning, nationally, which I'm still doing, in other states, I got the target on my back. I'm not complaining. I'm a big boy. But you see what's happening now. You guys are now covering, you're asking Pete questions you never asked him before.
Right.
Pete, how come you have no black support? Pete, how come you have no Latino support? Pete, how come boom, boom, boom? How come? Well, there are questions that I've been being asked a long time. The same thing happened, remember, with Senator Warren. She was on the rise, and so I just think it's a process, and there's like a rhythm to what you guys do out here. Now, I mean, I'm not being wise.
No. I
It's kind of a
understand.
rhythm. And the last point is, the good news that one thing that hasn't changed is that I'm the only one in the field that draws significantly from every sector of the Democratic Party. Overwhelmingly from African Americans and Latinos, with white working class high school educated people, middle class folks, with folks who are in the LGBT community, with young people, millennials. I get a piece and a chunk of all of that. And the next nominee has to be able to have that kind of breadth, and I think I have that. We'll find out, though. I'm not being cocky about it.
No, absolutely, I understand.
But that's how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
You had one more question.
Okay, the only other question was, you served in an administration before, you certainly understand it. How does a Joe Biden administration look different than a Barack Obama administration?
Hopefully we'll have the same ethical standards that we had. Hopefully we'll be able to lead the way we did, but it's a different world we're inheriting. Barack, the president, inherited a world that was in total disarray, about to go off a cliff, the greatest financial crisis in the history of America short of a depression. And what we're inheriting now is a world in disarray and a country divided. And so the skill that's required this time is and it's not hyperbole, and you don't have to respond, obviously, I'm not asking you questions, but I think in your gut everybody knows that you've got to be able to, on day one, command the respect of the rest of the world. There's going to be no time for on-the-job training in this one. And it's not because that's the case in every election, but this particular election, we're going to be left in chaos. And the second thing is you've got to be able to unify the country. And I'm the only one running who's actually ever gotten anything big done legislatively. From the Violence Against Women Act, to the Chemical Weapons Treaty, to the Recovery Act, which was $90 billion. And so there are things that I've been very good at being able to put together coalitions to get things passed in the Congress. And so that's why I think that at the end of the day, people are going to be looking at those things, but we'll find out. I may be back to looking for a job or something.
So, well, we'll keep that in mind.
All right.
Best of luck to you, Mr. Vice President, on the Democratic trail.